really making me feel like I'm not as tech savvy as I thought I was. It's very upsetting to me. But so when I clicked on the meeting, nothing popped up immediately that like showed the recording processing, but on the Zoom web page, it says processing on the Zoom web page. So that means even though it's not showing that download, it's still okay. Yeah, the cloud is now sure, I saved the August message.
Should be fine. Hi, Jose.
I'm muted. Hello, can you hear me? How's my?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
All right, I'm going to make you co-host so I can easily find you.
Okay.
So that when it's time, I can spotlight your video. But you don't need to control anything.
Awesome. I have enough going on already.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I got you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Jose.
Hey, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. You're going to do great, Jose. It's good to see you.
Well, thank you. Good to be seen.
So,
Sorry.
okay. Okay. I mean, I don't want to pitch you that. I'll go to Goodwill right now and dig for what I need to do. Okay.
I have actually put it on my computer.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Hi, Jose. He is on. I was talking to him. Oh, Christ.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. A little nervous. You know,
Sure. Well, we sure are excited to
excited as well.
and hopefully the nervousness as you get into it will subside. Ooh, I need you to grab the program.
Go.
Are you good with me taking snippets as I introduce you from your bio?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, awesome. I'll be right back.
So Jose, just to give you kind of a run through of what's happening during the hour that we're going to be on, we're going to announce the evening events first. So appears on DDA and the Cured documentary. Then we're going to play a Cured trailer, and then we're going to switch over to introducing you based on your bio that we used for the program, and then we will start.
Sounds good.
All right, awesome. And are we showing when I announced tonight's the Cured documentary? We're not watching it together. That's the panel discussion, right?
We're watching the trailer.
Yes.
Yes,
but
the
tonight,
panel discussion is tonight.
Yeah, not the film and then
Yeah.
a panel discussion.
Right.
Okay, perfect. All right, ready, set, go.
Ready?
Okay. Admit. Oh, I look like I'm blushing. Oh. Welcome, everyone. It's day 3. How is it so far? Enjoying it? Yes? Finding something that you've connected with? Learned some stuff, met some people? Excellent. So glad you're here. We're going to give it just a few minutes. People are joining. If you have any thoughts or something that has stood out for you, will you share that in the chat? Oh, thanks, Tiffany. Very cool. And workshops, most of the workshops are recorded. So they will be accessible. If there's some that were simultaneous with workshops you were attending live, then you can check those out later on the Pure Apocalypse website. And you'll still be able to get CEUs for those as well. So that's cool. I just recertified myself, so went through all of that. Oh, the wrap workshop. Thanks, Kevin. Oh, Cassandra's first time. Okay, well, we will have a few announcements. We'll play a trailer, and then I'll introduce our keynote, Jose Castillo. We're so glad Jose is joining us today. Thank you, Jose. Give it just a couple more minutes. Oh, and Bill, yesterday saw your question in the chat. Sorry I didn't get to it with Celia, but she is going to share her information. So if you want to have a further discussion, just wanted to acknowledge that we saw your question and we saved the chat, so it's saved. People are still joining, but in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, hi everyone. Janie Gullickson, Executive Director of the Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon. And on behalf of the 8th Peer Apocalypse Planning Committee and the team and volunteers at M.E.C.H.A, we welcome you to Peer Apocalypse 2021, Day 3. So we're right smack dab in the middle of the conference. And we also, well, this year, it sounds like it's been going really well for a virtual conference. And I know there's been so many Zoom meetings this past year. So just really appreciate your enthusiasm, your passion, and your time for joining us this year. And we look forward to being able to see you in person next year in Seaside. So we have that to look forward to as well. Let's see, evening events tonight, and these are Pacific Standard Time. So if you are outside this time zone, hopefully by now you've gotten the time differences dialed in. But from 5 to 6 tonight, we're going to have a Peer Zone meeting. Peer Zone is a series of workshops, and it's peer-led, peer-created, peer-developed, and are things that you can do with your peers if you're interested in checking it out. There's going to be a Peer Zone meeting tonight at 5. Then from 6 to 7, there's the DDA meeting, Dual Diagnosis Anonymous meeting. So probably something for everyone there. And then also from 6 to 7 is the Cured documentary panel discussion. So there will be people from the film as well as peers and community members sharing their experience. And we will be playing the trailer here in just a second.
If you were gay in those days, you were diagnosed as suffering from a mental disorder. Like so many people in my generation, I went to psychoanalysis to be cured.
These are some of the methods doctors employ to cure homosexuality: electroshock therapy, hysterectomies on lesbians, castrations of gay men.
People use psychiatry as a reason to discriminate. Apart from the discrimination against us, it gave us a horrible image of ourselves.
In the early 1970s, there was this growing rebellion against psychiatry, and we wanted to remove homosexuality from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual.
Body of knowledge which claims sickness for homosexuality has to be challenged.
We could not expect our civil rights as long as we were burdened with the sickness label.
Maybe it makes you feel good to be able to say that we're sick. Does it make you feel good?
The body of medical evidence suggests that it is a mental aberration.
There were so many of us that were at the same point. Enough is enough. We're not going to take it anymore. Period.
A number of psychiatrists talked about, why don't we organize, we can make an impact. John Fryer took a step as being the first psychiatrist to say, I'm a gay person, but no one recognized him. He represented all the people who were hiding and invisible.
The effect was electric.
At psychiatric annual meetings, there were demonstrations, if not in fact riots. Ron Gold, a gay activist, he got up there and he yelled out, "Stop it, you're making me sick."
I told them in my speech, you don't have the right to decide that perfectly happy people are sick.
This fight was the most important.
Can we turn the volume movement?
And so if you're interested in watching the film before the panel discussion tonight, it is available. It's been available, I believe, since Sunday evening, Monday morning, to watch at your leisure, to see the incredible journey of many folks who led the way in the rights movement and changing a huge challenging and changing a huge system, you know, the DSM, the
Hey,
diagnosis.
Channing. Look,
Yeah. Hello?
Channing, it was difficult. It was difficult. A lot of folks couldn't hear it very well. Volume was, but
Oh no. Okay.
I think we got the gist. We got the gist.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry. We can also put the link to the trailer in the chat, and then directions for how to access the film as well. Okay, well, it is time. Welcome, Jose Castillo. Jose has been involved with various recovery communities over the years and has gained knowledge through firsthand experience growing up on the streets while trying to fit in and discover who he was. First finding a home in street neighborhoods and later finding a strong cultural identity as a young college student in M.E.C.H.A. Cultural roots stirred and ignited his passion to create a path for the betterment of other young brown youth like himself. Detoured by addiction and mental health, Jose spent several years lost in heartbreaking cycle of self-destruction, only to emerge years later looking for a purpose to help uplift him. Jose was introduced to the art of peer support in 2009, once again creating a new path and passion. So over the last 10 years, Jose has spent working in various roles in the behavioral health realm, and most recently he has worked with tribal communities throughout the state of Arizona and has assisted in training and developing peer programs there. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Jose Castillo. Thank you.
Thank you. How's my sound coming across? Are we good?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking your lunchtime. It's 10:45 where I'm at, or 10:55 where I'm at. But I get that this might be an earlier time for others. Thank you for taking the time, for being present. I want to also thank M.E.C.H.A and the Peer Apocalypse Committee and the volunteers for inviting me to be the keynote. It's a great honor. If you don't know, I'm a little bit nervous, if you can't tell yet. I'm gonna start by giving a little disclaimer. I'm kind of like, if anybody has ever seen the Dennis the Menace cartoon strip where they're all over the place, he's all over the place. That can be me sometimes. And I wanna give you a pre-warning. I'll try to remain focused and on point. Some of the things that I'll be discussing is, first of all, since I'm from Tucson, Arizona, it's where I currently work at, it's where I reside, and I notice there's a lot of folks from Oregon. So while I have some support here, I see some Tucson folks and some Arizona folks in the meeting already. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of personal background about myself, as well as I'll talk about how I was introduced to peer support, and then of course, the topic, nothing about us without us, strengthening our voice. And I'll leave some time at the end for questions. Um, I think so let's go ahead and get started. So early, early on in life, I realized that there was something about me that just didn't quite fit. I'm a person who has racing thoughts, and I was just all over the place growing up. I didn't fit in with a lot of folks. Part of where I didn't fit in was I had this cultural identity, and I just didn't I didn't belong. I didn't belong with the Mexican community because I was born in the States, and I didn't belong. I was too brown to be Americanized. I was too brown to be American, so I didn't fit in with that group. And I always struggled. I was kind of in between. I struggled with that. The other thing is I struggled with with, of course, like I knew there was something about me, and I needed to have this void filled. Um, it didn't take long. In my early teens, I started doing drugs, and I started hanging out with folks out in in the neighborhoods. My parents divorced early, so I just had this big empty space and didn't know how to fill it, and I filled it up quickly. Self-medicating, uh, getting incarcerated, just trying to fit in and belong. And I did that for many years, many years, and I went through this repetitive cycle. Um, when I turned 18, I started community college, and I found a little bit of self-identity. I got involved with M.E.C.H.A, which is a Mexican American, which was a Mexican American student movement, which basically took youth like myself, and it was about educating us. And I did that for a little bit, but of course, my mental health, my addiction, it just overwhelmed me, and I followed that other path. Uh, so I ended up being incarcerated. I was in and out of jails, and I followed that cycle for a long time. What I noticed, so when I would go to prison, is that, and when I was incarcerated and I would go to prison, is that once I got off the drugs, there was still something about me that just wasn't clicking. The racing thoughts, the just, it was just, I just didn't fit in. I didn't feel normal, so I did that for some time, and I struggled with myself. It wasn't until I did what some of us do, is I got involved with the 12-step program, and I found a little bit of peace there. I'd like to tell you that being involved with 12-step programs would completely, fix my situation, but it didn't. I ended up repeating the cycle over and over. And while I was clean and not using substances, I started having some of the darkest moments in my life. And I couldn't explain why, it was actually pretty scary for myself. So you guys understand, I was living this cycle, and I didn't know how to ask for help. Culturally, in my background, we don't, I was taught we don't air our dirty laundry. We don't go see counselors or therapists or things like that. So I remember one time coming home, and I was, and I went to my what I would call her, my tia. I went to my aunt. She's kind of she was the head of our family in a sense. And I went to her and I explained to her, hey, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. I think there's something that I need help with. And I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that Bob Newhart video, where he's helping this lady, and he just tells her to stop it. That's what my aunt told me. Oh, you just need to stop it. Stop drinking, stop this, pick yourself up, go to work. I wish it was that easy. If it would have been that simple, then all my problems would have been fixed early on in life. And I went through this process, and I at first I listened to her, and the end result was the same. I ended up going back to prison. I ended up all messed up, and I didn't understand why. What ended up happening was I got released from prison, and I restarted that process again. You know, this time around, I got out, I got married, and I looked for things to fill that void other than drugs and alcohol. Still not understanding what was going on with myself. What ended up happening was I had about a year of this really dark period in my life, and I spun out of control, and I ended up hospitalized for the first time when I was 34 years old. That was really an awakening moment, because for me to be hospitalized and face my family and explain to them that I had lost complete control, and that I myself thought I was a danger to myself and others, you know, it was pretty scary, you know. And then to share that with my family who didn't understand, they didn't culturally, these types of services and programs and doing that was not okay, you know. But I had gotten tired of listening to others, and I learned that I needed to help myself. So I'm in California at this time, and I dove back into. I had gotten away from going to 12-step meetings, and I dove back into it and got re-involved with them. But I still felt there was something missing. You know, my life had completely fallen apart, and I had just repeated that cycle over and over. And here I am in my mid-30s, not knowing what I'm going to do next. I went to Yuma, Arizona. I moved to Yuma, Arizona, uplifted myself. I was going through a divorce, you know, separation, divorce, and was like, what are my next steps? What am I going to do? My dad had moved to Yuma, and he had settled down there. So I moved in with him while I was trying to reinvent myself. So I'm going to share with you guys that it was in Yuma that I was introduced to peer support services. You know, I got there and I started hitting up 12-step meetings, and I was talking to this lady, and I'm going to share her name. You know, her name was Annabelle Connor. She has since passed away, you know, but this lady pulled me aside and had a conversation with me, and she told me about peer support services, that was the work she was doing, and she helped me start putting some focus back in my life. Throughout the process, empowering me to do the work. You know, I didn't know what she was doing at the time, but I needed somebody like Annabelle in my life, you know, and I haven't looked back since. One of the things that happened when I was introduced to peer support services is that I found, when I was introduced just to peers and peer support services, you know, I found that I was able to fill that void that I had been missing. You know, that this whole time I found my people, I found my home. You know, I could say I have a tribe of folks today, you know, and that was pretty amazing. I didn't know that when I first started this journey. So we're like in 2009, I take the training, I get a job in peer support services, you know, being a peer support specialist in Little Yuma, Arizona, you know, and it was amazing. I haven't had to look back since. You know, I started taking college courses again and just reinventing myself. Still didn't know where I was going to go and what I was going to do. But what I did do is I followed that path, and I continued to do the next right thing. And I learned that there's this loving, helpful, supportive community, you know, that I can lean on today, that I can be there for others, that I can help teach other folks to empower themselves, to make the decisions they want to make. And for me, that was pretty powerful. I lived in Yuma for about 8 years. I ended up working for a peer-run organization. I did that little shift some of us do. I went to go work at an inpatient facility. I worked on the mental health unit. I worked with the substance abuse folks, you know, and I ended up back at this peer-run organization where I originally had started my journey. While working there, I became a peer support trainer. I slowly moved up the ladder. I got a position as a coordinator. Then I became the manager. It came to the point where it was me and the owners of the organization, you know, of the peer and And I felt like so I did that for a few years, and I kind of felt like I plateaued, and I was like, what's the next step? What can I do now while I keep going to school? Um, and I had the opportunity, and I took it. I jumped on it. I applied for this job, and I work for a managed care organization today. You know, and I remember when I took this job, other folks, you know, my friends, peers, they were like, "You're going to the dark side, Jose," and I was just like, "Okay, but this is an opportunity. Maybe I can do something from within." You know, I was trying to look at the other side, like, okay, what can I do? What, you know, first of all, I was looking for opportunity. I was ready for change. And something that I've learned for myself is that when my body and my mind's telling me it's time for change, I need to listen, because it becomes unhealthy if I don't listen. And so, yeah, so I picked myself up, uprooted myself, and moved to Tucson, Arizona. Um, how cool is that? And I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, it was scary. You know, I'm in Tucson. The girlfriend came with me. You know, I have a son. He comes with me. Her daughter comes with us, and we're an instant family now because we didn't live together before. So there was a lot of new stuff going on. Pretty scary. Apart from that, I had this new job, and I was like, how am I going to fit in? Am I even going to fit in? This is corporate America. And here I am with my good enough degree, you know, the GED. And here I am, like, and I'm having these new experiences. And I remember being and we worked in cubicles, you know, and I remember being in the cubicle and hearing this conversation with some folks that worked on the other side of the wall. They were in the other cubicle. It was a whole nother department. And they were talking about where they went to school and where their degrees were at, where their degrees were from. And here I had gotten hired to work for a department that was, it was of people like us. That's our role. We're the voice. We help capture the voice of the community, of peers and family members. And that was pretty amazing, right? So here I am at work, though, and on the other side of the wall, I'm hearing this conversation, and they're talking about their master's degrees and double masters, and I have a bachelor's in this, and I went to MIT, and I'm just blown away. And somebody says to me, from the other side of the wall, "Hey, Jose, where did you go to school?" And my only response was, "I went to CDC." And CDC, yeah, the California Department of Corrections. That's what helped me get my job here. And it got silent on the other side. You know, bless their hearts. There's some amazing people, but that was the reality of it. And that's where that's where I was at that moment. You know, and imagine just like a huge transition from working on the streets and helping folks to going to wearing shirts and ties to work every day. And it was like mind blowing for me at that time. Today it's different, and it's been amazing. I work for an amazing organization with on an amazing team, and I know some of them are probably on this call, you know, watching right now, and I'll give a couple of shout outs in a little bit, but yes, so I went through that whole process. So Arizona, I'm going to tell you guys, is unique. I shouldn't say unique, but something that happens in Arizona is that you can bill under the state Medicaid system for peer services, for family services. Some folks may feel that that's a blessing, and some folks may completely disagree with that, and that's okay. What I have found for myself is that I've had this unique opportunity to work with the department under some great leadership, and like they said earlier in the bio when they talked about some of the things I've gotten to do since I've been where I am at since 2016. I've worked with some of the native Arizona tribes and helping them, you know, in peer training and helping them establish peer programs. I've worked with the Department of Corrections, and I'll give Brian a shout out. I see him there. with the Department of Corrections. And here in Arizona, one of the things that I love is that we were able to work with the Department of Corrections and support them as they built and established a peer wellness program within the prisons. If I'm not going to give you all the stats, but I want to say there's peer wellness programs in 9 out of the 10 state-run prisons. So that's pretty amazing stuff. Being a person that was formerly incarcerated, that was one of the things that when I landed in Tucson that I went to my manager for right from the beginning. I let her know, hey, this is where my heart's at. I think peer programs within county jails and prisons would be amazing. How can we make this happen? You know, and there was a long conversation that went on in there, and I'll just let you guys know that I persisted. You know, I didn't, knock on her door every day and tell her, knock, knock, knock. But what I did do was on our quarterly and our monthly meetings, I would send her information about stuff that I had looked up, about things that were being done in other parts of the country. And I think I did that probably for about a year and a half, before we were able to connect with the Department of Corrections and work with them. Pretty cool stuff. I'm really proud of that, because I never thought something like that would be possible. And just the other part is I never thought that they would let me in to a prison, I don't know about you guys, but I spent some time in California. When we talk about those things, there was some dark, scary places I ended up at. California Department of Corrections, when I last left there, had deemed me, it was pretty bad. Let's just say I left on a parole violation, and I was housed in a unit where everybody was doing life but me. And that's where they had deemed me worthy of living. And the message, and I heard the message, if you come back, you might not be going home. So I'm gonna go back to that mental health part. Over the last few years since my introduction to peer support, I've learned how to cope with life a lot differently. I don't need to self-medicate anymore. I have some amazing supports, and I've been able to continuously move forward. I've learned a lot about myself in the last year alone. Well, year and a half maybe. I'm getting ready to graduate with my bachelor's degree here, coming up pretty quick. I never thought that was going to be possible. I've taken this slow road because I do know how I get with my brain and my thinking, and everything else that comes with it. So, I take one class at a time, but I've been knocking on the door, and just keep moving forward. I recognize that sometimes my mental health gets in the way, so I've been able to manage that, and I'm excited for that. The other thing I've done, and it's really because I've found this course by working on myself and practicing self-care methods and having a support system, is I've bought a home. I have a mortgage today, which is pretty cool. Who gets excited about having a mortgage? Well, I did. I'm really excited about that. I'm no longer living from house to house and being dependent on whether they're going to raise my rent, because that's one of the things that happens when you're out there in the market as a renter. I never thought those things would be possible. I honestly, if we go back to my high school days, I remember being a senior in high school and my first son's mother, my oldest boy's mom, asking me what I wanted to do in life. And I told her that I would probably be in prison, and I would probably be in prison the rest of my life. That was a goal back then when I was like 17 years old. I did the prison part, and I'm very grateful that I'm not there for the rest of my life. And for those who are, I acknowledge that it's a hard road. That's why I consider myself blessed and fortunate to be able to be out here and talk about things like peer services. It's pretty cool. I feel like I've been going on and I just dumped a whole bunch on you guys, you know, a little bit about my story. Peer services. So yes, like I shared with you guys in Arizona, we, you know, it's billable under state Medicaid. We've had the opportunity to work on some cool stuff. One of the other things I do, which is pretty awesome, is we train veteran peer mentors to work with the veteran treatment courts. Got a few of those under my belt. It's pretty exciting stuff there as well. And so, strengthening our voices. So for me, when we talk about strengthening our voices and nothing about us without us, it's about being involved, you know, being involved with coalitions and committees and ensuring that we're at the table in all aspects that affect our lives. And I know for myself that I've been, sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed. I participate in some committees, some coalitions, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I guess, the cultural aspect or being included, trying to have that brown face there, as I say it, you know. So my heart lies with like justice work and peer services. At times, folks will want to include me in things because of my color of skin, because I come with that background. And for me, while that's, you know, that's an honor and it's awesome, as a person of color, sometimes I would just like the door to be opened up and say, hey, I'm asking for some volunteers, rather than being approached and say, hey, can you lead this committee? I feel that sometimes that we see that in the work that we do, you know, where you're asked to lead something because you are a person of color, or they're trying to reach that specific community. And it's one of those things where sometimes I get uncomfortable just because I don't feel like I'm the all-knowing expert, even though I've been fighting the fight and this is the work that I do. Sometimes I just want to have the ability to sit back and pick and choose which committee I want to be on and not be targeted just because I'm brown, if that makes any sense to you guys. The other part is as a person of color, sometimes I say some off the wall stuff, you know, or I may challenge what, you know, the majority, you know, and it'll get awkwardly silent, or folks have, they get uncomfortable. I want to let you guys know, like, that's okay. Embrace the uncomfortableness. Let's have this conversation. Don't blow me off because I said something you didn't agree with. And the next thing I know, I'm being talked about like if I'm a difficult person. You know, respect me for my opinion and what I bring to the table, whether it's about mental health or it's about culture. You know, this is why I come to the table. This is why we come to the table. So I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to challenge you guys actually, because I come from, I've been that one person. I've been, I'll put it like this. I've been the one guy in a committee with a bunch of women. I've been that one brown face in a committee with a bunch of white faces. You know, I've been, you know, and you get my point, right? I've been that one that shows up. And while I'm there, and when I speak up and I share and I make you feel uncomfortable, that's okay. Maybe the question should be how you all can take the lead, not how Jose can take the lead, if that makes any sense. Because usually what follows up is, Jose, can you take the lead on that? And I'm like, no, I have a lot going on, and it's not that I don't want to be a part of, but I throw this out there because, yeah, I do want to acknowledge that we have differences of opinions, we have different views, and sometimes not sometimes, we don't have the same experiences. Let's just be clear about that. We don't have the same experiences. And that's it's very important to acknowledge that, I would say. So I'm going to challenge you, if you are and you do fit those parameters. First of all, know that I'm coming from a place that I love everybody that's here, But if you do fit those parameters and you find yourself in those committees, in those coalitions, those subcommittees, and you find yourself turning to that person, I'm going to challenge you to step up and say, hey, what can I do, rather than defaulting to that person of color? How can I support this movement? How can I support this change? Rather than just leaving it up to somebody else. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. We got a few minutes left. Do a little bit of questions. I'll do my best to answer. I am going to give a quick little shout out to Miss Brenda. She's on there somewhere. Brenda, thank you. She was checking in on me earlier, making sure I was okay. I told her yesterday, I'm nervous. Like, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. Sometimes I got my little list of things I want to hit, but then sometimes I deviate. So, I want to thank you guys for your time, and we'll open it up. Thank you.
Oh, I guess I'm unmuted already. Okay. Thank you, Jose, so much for just sharing your vulnerability, but also your strength. And that's personally what I took away, is just your incredible strength and example of what is possible, what can be done, when to say yes and when to say no. And thank you for that challenge. Because we don't have to learn how to do it first. Just step up, come to the table and speak up. And then, together our voices are strengthened. So I know sometimes, it's got to be exhausting. So just thank you so much for all your work and your leadership. So it looks like we had some hands up. There was one and then it went down. Look in the chat. There was a question about any tips for breaking the resistance from your culture to engage in services.
Any tips? I can only speak from my experience, and for me, it was like enough was enough. I had went to the family, and I was basically told stop it. So then when I got out of prison, and I knew, like, when it had gotten dark, I just made the decision. Like, I knew I needed help. Well, what I was doing wasn't working anymore. I don't. When it comes to addressing it culturally, I think it's just inviting folks and normalizing it and having those conversations. So I did start doing those things. We would get together and for family events, and I would talk about some of the things that I was doing, some of the great programs that were out there, and just continue to educate my family. Today, the experiences in my family have shifted. The acknowledgement that people need help is there. And I've actually been approached multiple times from different family members in regards to helping family members or friends of family members, or, in regards to getting either services, whether it's substance use or just like looking for a counselor or a therapist or somebody to help them. I think that's changed. But I think when I really think back and I look back when I first started doing this, in 2007, when I first sought out services, it was it was just having those conversations. I would talk about, like, I normalize it, like, hey, I'm working with a therapist, you know. And I noticed that my family members would get uncomfortable when I would bring it up. And I would say, hey, so when we had disagreements or we had conversations that were uncomfortable for them, I would let them know, like, hey, you know what, I can free up a therapy session, and I was being really real about that. Like, I can free up, we could work past this because I love you, I love you, and I don't want to not be comfortable with what happened in the past, or I was trying to own up my own behavior, but at the same time, I know that for myself, I was trying to make it comfortable for me to have these conversations. And as time passed, things did shift, if that makes any sense. Yes. I hope that answers your question.
That was Paul M. And thank you, Jose, for that response. Here's another question, and I'm not sure, maybe they want to unmute and ask. It's in the chat, and it just says, Jose, without the drama, is the work easier for you? I don't know, yeah, exactly they're asking.
Without the drama, I don't know. Do they want to unmute and
So, Jose, that was me. Hi, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that you're doing so well. You mentioned you got the mortgage, you got the girl, you got the kids, you got the house, you got this, you got. Without the drama, all that stuff that we got, we grew up with, right? Is the work easier for you now? Yeah, that's what I meant.
I still struggle at times. I still have my, so let me be very clear. So one of the things that I left out and we didn't talk about was, like, I seen a psychiatrist for a while, and I was medicated for a little bit, but I made the decision for myself that I did not want to be medicated. It was part of the addiction thing. I didn't want to be popping pills. It was one of those things. And I really, and this is for me, I can only speak for myself. I'm in no way telling folks to get off medications if that's what works for you. I'm going to share with you, medications did work for me. It helped me get through about an additional year of some really dark period of time. It kept me from being explosive. It kept me from it kept me from balling up, curling up in a ball and crying, and because that was one of the things that was really hard for me, as well, as coming from my background. We didn't curl up in a ball and cry. That was really frustrating for me. So it stopped me from doing those things. And I remember, like, with even being involved with the 12-step program, my original sponsor would ask me, like, he didn't understand, like, like me taking medications. He wanted to know if I was getting high, off of them. And I told him, like, I'm not getting high. It just keeps me from curling up in a ball and crying. It's helping life be a little bit more tolerable, Anyhow, so I worked with a psychiatrist for a period of time, and I stopped taking meds. I had the conversation with them, and I learned how to advocate for myself. So today, life still shows up. Sometimes, my brain is still racing, or I feel a little bit of that depression will come on. And I've learned to recognize when my symptoms start showing, and I have some things that I can do for myself. So does life show up? It does. Just today, when I notice things, when I notice the signs that are happening, I have somebody, I have people I can talk to about it. I have some coping skills. I know that it's time for me to start doing something. I'll tell you guys right now, my dog is right here, right by me, and she's been my comfort for the last, since we've been on this call. She's been here, and I don't know why. She must have felt something in me today, because she's been by my side all morning, which is not normal. Normally she wants to be outside, or she's off laying somewhere. She's an older dog, but today she's stuck by my side, and she must have felt the uneasiness I had, from coming on this call. So life does show up. I don't think there's much drama. I just know it's about putting one foot in front of the other, and acknowledging when I'm not healthy, that I have some coping skills, and I have some, I get to participate in some groups, and we talk about some self-care, and I'm always doing something to help me stay on that path. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Jose. This is Janie. I have a question about the getting into the prisons and getting peer support in the prisons. Have you been able to train people who are still incarcerated to do peer support, or is it peer support on the outside, making connections while people are incarcerated, and then when they get in the community? How does that work? And what was besides getting them in there, what's been the biggest challenge?
What's been the I think the biggest challenge has been COVID, because we can't go in there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty awesome. We started off we started off with training their counselors, but we were very specific. Everybody that we trained had to self-identify. They had to come out and say, hey, this is my experience. We weren't doing any of the, hey, we're going to hold this and we're going to wear this hat. We wanted to ensure that the folks that were going to be overseeing the peers in there could have that connection. So that was really important. And I'm going to give a shout out. You guys can message them. They're on the call. Brian Schrum, he's from Arizona Department of Corrections. He's on here right now, and Holly Escudero. They're both on here. I hope you guys don't mind. If people have questions about how this works, I would direct you to them. That's their baby in their hands, and some amazing work. So back to what we did. We connected with the Department of Corrections, and we identified their counselors, and we trained them. And then what we did was we went inside the prisons. We went into the Tucson complex here in Tucson, Arizona, and into what's known as Perryville, which is a women's prison. So we trained folks that were already doing the work. They're like-minded folks. They were already identifying as peers. They just didn't have that structure, that training. They were already doing things like running 12-step meetings or starting self-help groups within the prison. And we gave them a little bit of a foundation. And what the prison did is they developed this peer wellness program. And the men and women, they run these programs in the prison. So they facilitate these groups, which is pretty cool. It gives them some motivation, some hope. What else? So we started that around 2017. And like I said earlier, 9 out of the 10 prisons. Something that we started doing, 9 out of the 10 prisons have peer wellness programs in them. Something that we started doing now is we're connecting folks. So what that looks like is as folks are getting out of, as they're going home to their families, we're connecting them with services. So if people are getting out of the peer wellness program, they're getting the opportunity to connect to peer-run organizations here in the Tucson community, and that's pretty awesome. So that warm handoff is happening. The organization is working with the prisons. They're having these meetings. Hey, this is what's going on. The other thing that happens here in Arizona is that as the folks that we've credentialed and that we've put through the peer training program that are working as peers within the prison, they're their credentialing, their certificate is actually good to become employed. So not only can they use it in the prison system, but they can get out here in society and utilize that credentialing. So it leads to employment. I stay in touch with a couple of the original class that have actually come home and are now working in the field, which is pretty awesome. And I've gotten to hear their stories and their successes. And one gentleman, went from a halfway house to he has his own apartment, his own car now, and he's got his son back at home, living with him now, which is pretty cool. And that's just one example of several. And when I think back about when we first started this, I didn't even imagine that it would get to where we're at today. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
The barrier is COVID. We're looking forward for when Department of Corrections is back in, because there's some other trainings we have that we want to complement, and I'm all about let's do this in-person training, doing things over Zoom and Google. While some folks say it doesn't lose the connectivity, I think we lose on some of the competency skills that I want to ensure folks gain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. That fully answered the question, and just incredible work. And that's full circle stuff right there. I mean, that's amazing. And to watch the folks you trained then come out and be in the field and gain the things that, you've gained as well, and watch them do that. It's incredible. It's the joy of this work too. Someone else asked, not to get too much into your business, but someone asked, can we see your dog? So I just
Jesus. Yeah. She's all comfy right here. Come on, Mama. Come on. She normally doesn't do cameos. Come on.
Well, thanks for trying, but if she doesn't want to, that's no problem.
Up. No, you want to go? I'm happy up. Let's go. No.
Oh. Yeah, that's a partner right there.
She was all comfy under there, just feel her moving.
Well, thank you for sharing her with us.
Thank you.
Any other last comments, questions, thoughts to share with Jose?
I just want to say I appreciate you, Jose, for being so real with us, and not hiding behind anything. I was wondering, I've never been in jail myself, but there's openings all the time where I live for a peer in the jail's community. Do you think I could get a job with that, or is it a requirement that you have to have a background? You know what I'm saying?
So I'm sorry, can you repeat what you stated?
There's openings all the time for peers in the jail system where I live. I'm in La Grande, Oregon, and I would like to work with people like that. I mean, I have my own, stuff that I've gone through, but I've never been in prison. Do you think I could get a job working in a prison? Or now peers are kind of, you come from the same kind of background or something, and that's how you connect. So if I haven't been in prison, could I connect to people that are in prison? You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, well, so I'll give you an example with the Arizona Department of Corrections, right? I think for them, and Brian, you can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but for them, that's something they're looking for, is somebody that's been incarcerated, like, you know, to work inside the prisons. But if depending on the organizations and, you know, I know it's a preference for some places that folks kind of have that background, but it doesn't necessarily, I know here in Arizona, there's organizations that do justice work, but you don't necessarily have to have a background in justice work. You just need to have the peer support credentialing. But that I believe is up to the agency or organization that's employing those folks.
Okay.
Yeah, if you mind if I talk real quick, Jose?
Yeah.
Perfectly fine with it. We got about 3 minutes from.
I'll take 30 seconds. So yeah, Arizona Department of Corrections, the RSS team, which includes myself, Holly Escudero, who is here, our reentry coordinator. We have a peer support at our Maricopa Reentry Center. And then we're currently recruiting for a Northern Region coordinator to work underneath me. We are all justice involved in recovery ourselves. So I know at least in Arizona, it's actually a preferential or not, or I think we prefer people for the positions we're hiring for to have that background. We'll hire anybody that has self-identified as a peer, but if they have justice involvement, it will, in my eyes, it will help them connect a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Hey Brian, you want to? I saw you drop those stats in the chat box. Is it okay if I read them out to folks just so they have an idea of what it looks like?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So to date, 240 inmates certified as RSS. That's recovery support specialists, which here in Arizona, recovery support specialists and peer support specialists are interchangeable. Same thing, just a different, you know, title. So 240 inmates certified as RSS. Over 300 have graduated the classes and they have taught. Currently, 800 inmates are enrolled in classes. They teach 250 inmates have released that completed the program. Our recidivism rate for those inmates that have completed the classes that the RSS teach is 3%. Of my 12 released RSSs, none of them have come back. So out of the 12 that have been trained to be recovery support specialists that have been released to go home, none of those 12 have come back. And those are the guys that are running and facilitating the groups within the walls and providing those one-on-one services in there, which is pretty cool. So anyhow, thanks for putting that in there, Brian.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jose. I think there was one other question. Dorothy had someone shared that Dorothy had a question in the chat, but I couldn't find it. So Dorothy, could you unmute yourself?
I don't know how to make this as fast as I can, but I'm on Social Security disability. I have a certain parameter of income I can make a year, or they're going to cut me off of my medication and my aid. I've applied to over 100 jobs as a peer wellness specialist, and every single time I mentioned disabled, Social Security, or a certain wage requirement, they don't offer me a job. I've applied to over 100 jobs in this field. I have 26 years of experience volunteering. How do you not give up, Jose, on fulfilling your dream when you feel like the world around you is crashing in and not giving you a key to any of the opportunity?
How do how do you not give up? I view the world as I get to do things today. So that's been my inspiration. You know, like I shared with you guys, that same aunt that told me to stop it was also somebody that held the hope for me. She never gave up on me when I was going through some of the hardest times. Looking for work is yeah, that's a difficult. It can be a very difficult experience, especially if you're not seeing the results you wish to see. I would say I get to do things and look for that opportunity. It may start off as volunteering. I know that I went through that experience when I first started. I actually volunteered at the first peer run organization. I was going in there and spending time in there, and I know not everybody, you know, like that's a gateway to try to get your foot in the door. That's just one example. The other thing that I do is I network with folks like people that are already doing the work and establish those connections at those agencies and see if there's a way I could plug myself in. Can you let me know when there's job opportunities that are coming up? What are the interview questions? What does that look like? You know, that's how I've always prepared. The current job I have right now, I'm going to be honest with you, I landed the job by having a conversation with the hiring manager that I asked her, hey, I put an application in, who would I talk to? You know, and that's how we sparked the conversation. And she said, oh, you're interested in working for that department? And I said, yeah. And then she turned around and she told me, well, I'm the hiring manager for that department. But I already had an idea it was her. That was my in, you know, like, hey, I put this application in. Who do I talk to about getting an interview, you know? And I was able to have that conversation with that person. And I just look for ways to be creative on how I can make those connections. Yeah, that's my suggestion. Like, how can you make those connections at the places you're applying and see if you can gain an opportunity to get an interview.
There's some really helpful suggestions, Jose. Appreciate it.
Okay. I don't know. I don't want to cut into people's lunchtime. It is 11:48. I'm perfectly okay with staying on. She's over here playing with my foot now, so I'm going anywhere. But for those, is there anything else?
No, Kathleen, you have a hand raised?
Do you have an email address that we
Oh,
can reach you at?
absolutely, yes. I'm gonna put that in. It's my everyone here. Okay, I'll drop that in the chat. I want to thank you guys. You guys have been great. I feel so much more comfortable now than when I first started. So this is my personal email, and I went ahead and dropped it in there. It's joecastillo.tlc@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, and somebody asked what's the next what's the next big thing? You know, that's a good question. I'm working on a couple of things. Stay tuned. I'll hit these conferences up right now. I want to secure my bachelor's degree before I talk too much about some of the stuff that's been going on in my brain. And of course, continuing to do the work that we're doing right now is awesome, and I love being a part of that. But I have a couple of things that are burning a hole back here, you know, causing me to lose some hair. Yeah.
I feel you. Well, thanks again so much, and thanks for sharing your email. I'm sure you have impacted, influenced, inspired, and connected with so many people here today, Jose, including me. Just appreciate you so much, and have, you know, of course, with Jessica and some of the folks here that have gotten to work with you, just heard so many great things and have been inspired by the work you're doing in Arizona. And I'm sure it's going to impact much broader than just the state of Arizona. So, in fact, I know it has. Much gratitude.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of Peerpocalypse, everyone. Take care. Thanks again, Jose.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.